In the dim light of a small, cramped apartment, a doll named Annabelle sat innocently on a shelf. She looked like any other child's toy, with glossy brown hair and a frilly dress. However, she was anything but ordinary. Annabelle was a vessel for an evil spirit, causing chaos and terror wherever she went. The owners, a pair of young nurses, began to notice strange occurrences around the doll. Doors would slam shut, and they would find Annabelle moved from her original spot, as if she were exploring the house at night. The nurses, intrigued and frightened, sought the help of paranormal experts who confirmed their worst fears. The doll was possessed. The situation escalated when the nurses received a warning from a psychic who advised them to get rid of the doll immediately. They dismissed the warning, believing they could control the situation. But one night, after a particularly violent encounter with Annabelle, they found themselves in a terrifying predicament. The doll had left a message, written in blood on the wall. "Help me." Panic set in as they realized they had unleashed a powerful, malevolent force. It wasn't long before the nurses encountered our arm, with one of them finding claw marks on her skin. It became clear that Annabelle was not just a doll. She was a harbinger of doom. Desperate for help, the nurses turned to Ed and Lorraine Warren, renowned paranormal investigators. The Warrens quickly recognized the danger Annabelle posed and conducted an exorcism to cleanse the apartment. After securing the doll in a glass case, they took her to their occult museum, warning everyone that Annabelle was still a conduit for evil. To this day, she remains behind glass, her malevolent spirit waiting for the next opportunity to escape. Annabelle's story serves as a chilling reminder that some dolls are better left undisturbed, as their innocence hides a darkness that can wreak havoc on the unsuspecting. In the early 1900s, a young boy named Robert Otto was gifted a life-size doll by his grandfather. The doll, made of straw and cloth, was a likeness of the boy and quickly became his constant companion. However, Robert the doll soon exhibited strange and terrifying behaviors. Neighbors reported seeing Robert move from window to window, watching them intently as they walked by. As Robert grew older, so did the rumors about his connection to dark forces. Otto would often be heard talking to Robert as if the doll were alive, and his parents soon realized that their son had formed a troubling bond with the toy. Over the years, the bond between Robert and Otto grew increasingly sinister. Otto began to display uncharacteristic rage, blaming Robert for his misfortunes. The doll was said to whisper to Otto, telling him to commit acts of violence against his family and friends. Otto's behavior became erratic, leading to a series of bizarre incidents that would leave the family in turmoil. One evening, after a particularly heated argument with his parents, Robert was discovered covered in blood. The family, convinced the doll was cursed, locked Robert away in the attic, hoping to end the torment. Yet the horror did not cease. After Otto's death, Robert was discovered in the attic, seemingly untouched. The new owners of the house soon began experiencing strange phenomena. They would find doors locked that had been left open, and the sound of children's laughter echoed through the halls. Visitors to the museum where Robert is now displayed report feelings of dread and unease as they approach him. Some claim they feel the doll's eyes follow them, sending chills down their spines. Robert remains a haunting reminder that some toys are not just playthings, but vessels for dark forces that should never be trifled with. In a small, cluttered attic, a collector of rare dolls stumbled upon an antique piece that seemed to call to him. This doll, unlike any he had seen before, radiated an aura of darkness. As soon as he brought it home, strange events began to unfold. The collector saw the dolls, once silent and still, started to whisper among themselves at night. They would be found positioned differently every morning, as if they were plotting something sinister. The collector initially dismissed the oddities, attributing them to his imagination. However, as the whispers grew louder, he began to realize that the new doll was the source of the chaos. Determined to uncover the truth, he researched the doll's origins, learning that it was said to be cursed by its original owner, a girl who had mysteriously vanished. Legends claimed that anyone who possessed the doll would experience a descent into madness. As the nights passed, the collector found himself drawn deeper into the doll's dark history. The whispers morphed into clear voices, urging him to perform dark rituals to awaken the spirits trapped within the other dolls. Under the doll's influence, he lost touch with reality, isolating himself from friends and family. One fateful night, driven by the doll's command, the collector gathered his other dolls in a ritualistic circle. As he began the incantations, the air grew thick with malevolence. The dolls seemed to come alive, their eyes glinting with a hunger for freedom. Suddenly, the attic was filled with a cacophony of voices, each one pleading to be released. In that moment of desperation, the collector realized the terrible mistake he had made. He tried to escape, but the dolls closed in on him, their porcelain faces twisted in rage. The following day, his home stood silent, with the dolls displayed in perfect alignment, their whispers replaced by an eerie stillness. The collector had vanished, leaving behind a chilling reminder that some dolls are meant to remain forever unclaimed. In an old decrepit house, a family moved in, eager to start a new life. While cleaning the basement, they stumbled upon an old trunk covered in dust and cobwebs. Inside lay a beautifully crafted doll with a haunting smile. The children were enchanted, and the parents decided to keep it as a decoration. However, as night fell, they began to experience strange occurrences. The doll would shift positions, its smile growing wider with each passing day. The children claimed they heard giggles coming from the basement, and the parents, dismissing it as their imagination, ignored their pleas. As the days turned into weeks, the disturbances escalated. Shadows flickered in the corners of the home, and the family experienced inexplicable cold spots, especially near the doll. The parents, now concerned, decided to investigate its history. They discovered that the doll had belonged to a girl who had tragically drowned in the river nearby. The townspeople believed the doll held her spirit, bound to the world by her unfinished business. Ignoring the warnings, the family chose to keep the doll, believing it to be harmless. One night, after a particularly restless day, the parents were awakened by the sound of children's laughter echoing through the house. Terrified, they searched for the source, only to find the doll missing from its place. Following the laughter, they descended into the basement, where the air turned frigid. The doll was in the center of the room, surrounded by shadowy figures that resembled the children who had once owned it. The parents screamed, but it was too late. The doll's spirit had claimed them, trapping them forever in the basement. The house remains abandoned, and locals say that on stormy nights, you can still hear the echoes of laughter and cries for help emanating from within. In a quaint antique shop, a curious woman purchased a vintage doll with striking blue eyes and an elegant gown. The shopkeeper warned her about its unsettling reputation, but she shrugged off the warning, drawn in by its beauty. As she brought the doll home, she began experiencing strange visions, memories that didn't belong to her. She saw scenes of a young girl playing in a park, only for the vision to turn dark as she witnessed the girl being taken by a mysterious figure. Haunted by the doll's secrets, the woman became obsessed with uncovering its past, spending sleepless nights researching its origins. As the visions intensified, the woman found herself falling deeper into a terrifying spiral. Each night, the doll would seem to whisper to her, urging her to follow the dark path it revealed. The young girl in her visions began to call for help, her voice echoing in the woman's mind. Desperate to save her, the woman started investigating the cold case of a missing child, only to find that the little girl's disappearance had been linked to the doll. She realized that the doll was a conduit for the girl's spirit, trapped in a state of torment, seeking closure. The urgency to save the girl grew unbearable. One fateful night, the woman decided to confront the doll and perform a séance to free the trapped spirit. In her dimly lit living room, she gathered candles and began the ritual, feeling the air grow heavier with tension. As she called upon the spirit, the doll's eyes glowed with an otherworldly light. The room was filled with whispers, and the woman felt an icy grip on her heart. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and the young girl appeared, pleading for freedom. The woman's heart raced as she realized she had unleashed something far more powerful than she could control. The doll let out a blood-curdling scream, the spirit of the girl intertwined with her own. When the morning light broke, the woman was found lifeless on the floor, the doll perched beside her, a chilling reminder of the secrets it had held. In a remote estate, a young couple inherited a collection of antique dolls from a distant relative. Among them was a small, delicate doll with a cracked face and a peculiar smile. The couple was immediately drawn to it, despite its weathered appearance. As they began to display the dolls throughout their home, they noticed that strange occurrences began to unfold. The couple would hear whispers at night, shadows dancing in the corners of their vision, and the unsettling sensation of being watched. Initially, they dismissed it as their imagination, but the occurrences escalated, and they could no longer ignore the ominous atmosphere surrounding the doll. Intrigued and frightened, they decided to investigate the history of the doll. Their research revealed that it had once belonged to a little girl who had been subjected to unspeakable horrors in her home. The doll was a gift meant to provide comfort, but as the girl's life spiraled into darkness, the doll became a vessel for her anguish. The couple began to feel the weight of the girl's sorrow, as if the doll were crying out for help. Each night, the whispers grew louder, and they could make out the girl's name, Isabella. It became clear that the doll held the essence of her spirit, trapped in a cycle of pain and despair. Determined to break the curse, the couple held a séance to communicate with Isabella, hoping to release her from the torment. As they lit candles and called out to her, a sudden chill filled the room, and the doll's eyes glimmered with an unholy light. They could hear Isabella's voice, a soft whisper of longing and sorrow. However, as they continued the séance, the room was engulfed in darkness, and they felt an overwhelming sense of dread. The doll's smile twisted into a malevolent grin, revealing a truth far more sinister than they anticipated. The couple's screams echoed through the estate, but by morning, the house stood silent once more, with the doll resting in its place, a haunting reminder of the girl's unending sorrow. Those who dared to visit the estate would speak of the chilling atmosphere, warning others that some dolls should remain undisturbed. In a small town renowned for its exquisite dolls, there was a master doll maker named Horace. He was beloved for his craftsmanship, creating dolls that felt lifelike. However, his obsession with perfection turned into a twisted need for control. When he discovered that a rival had begun to sell his own dolls, Horace's jealousy turned dark. He decided to use his craft to exact revenge, infusing his dolls with fragments of his soul, intending to bring them to life. One fateful night, he created a doll so lifelike that it could move on its own. The townsfolk initially adored it, but soon they began to disappear one by one. As the disappearances grew, the townspeople started to whisper about the doll maker's dark obsession. Fear spread like wildfire, and children were warned never to approach Horace's shop. One stormy night, a brave boy named Thomas ventured into the shop, determined to uncover the truth. He discovered the lifelike doll locked away in a glass case, its eyes filled with a sinister intelligence. In a moment of curiosity, Thomas reached out to touch it, only to feel a cold grip around his wrist. The doll had awakened, and with a flick of its wrist, it shattered the glass case, breaking free. Thomas tried to flee, but the doll moved with terrifying speed, its porcelain face twisted into a wicked grin. Horace, realizing what he had done, confronted the doll in a desperate attempt to regain control. The doll, now imbued with the anger of the souls it had trapped, turned on its creator. The townspeople heard Horace's screams echoing through the night, followed by an eerie silence. The next day, they found his workshop in disarray, with no sign of the master doll maker. In the weeks that followed, the townsfolk reported sightings of the doll roaming the streets, searching for its next victim. The boy's bravery was rewarded as he became the town's protector, warning others about the curse that haunted their beloved dolls. Horace's legacy lived on, and the townsfolk were left to wonder if the doll maker would ever return for revenge. In a quaint Victorian house, a family stumbled upon an old dusty doll while cleaning the attic. The doll was porcelain, with delicate features and a hauntingly realistic smile. The children were enamored, naming her Emily and placing her in a prominent spot in their living room. However, it soon became clear that Emily was no ordinary doll. The family began to notice unsettling occurrences, objects moving on their own, whispers echoing through the halls, and the feeling of being watched. One night, the youngest child woke up to find Emily sitting at the foot of her bed, staring with her unblinking eyes. Terrified, she screamed. But when her parents rushed in, Emily was back on the shelf, seemingly untouched. Determined to understand the source of the disturbances, the family researched the doll's origins. They discovered that Emily had belonged to a young girl who mysteriously vanished over a century ago. The girl was rumored to have been playing with the doll when she disappeared, never to be seen again. As the family delved deeper into the history of the doll, the occurrences escalated. The parents found Emily hidden in different rooms each day, as if she were exploring the house. The whispers became louder, and the family experienced vivid nightmares involving the lost girl, each dream ending with her pleading for help. The family decided to get rid of the doll, believing it to be the source of their troubles. However, as they placed Emily outside, a powerful storm rolled in, and the doll was found back inside the house the next morning. The children were drawn to Emily's lifelike features, and despite their parents' warnings, they brought her back inside. The hauntings reached a peak, culminating in a harrowing night when the parents awoke to find Emily standing over their sleeping children. The family fled the house, leaving Emily behind, but the townsfolk later reported seeing her peering out the attic window, a ghostly reminder of the girl who never left. In a remote village, a porcelain doll was passed down through generations, each owner reporting bizarre occurrences after taking possession of it. The doll dressed in a tattered Victorian gown, had an unsettlingly beautiful face that belied its dark past. The most recent owner, a young woman named Clara, was enamored by the doll and placed it prominently in her living room. Soon after bringing the doll home, Clara began to experience vivid hallucinations, visions of the doll moving on its own and whispering her name. Clara dismissed the warnings from her grandmother, who claimed the doll was cursed and brought misfortune to anyone who owned it. As the days passed, Clara's hallucinations intensified. She would wake to find the doll in different positions, sometimes even facing her, its glassy eyes seemingly filled with malice. One fateful night, Clara was jolted awake by the sound of laughter echoing through her home. To her horror, she found the doll standing at the foot of her bed, its porcelain skin shimmering in the moonlight. Terrified, Clara screamed, but the doll remained silent, its mouth painted with an eerie smile. In a fit of panic, Clara decided to get rid of the doll, tossing it into the fire. However, just as the flames began to consume it, a strange wind extinguished the fire, leaving the doll unharmed and even more menacing. Desperate and on the brink of madness, Clara sought help from a local priest who specialized in curses. He performed a ritual to cleanse the doll, but as he began, the lights flickered and a bone-chilling voice echoed through the room. "You can't escape me." The priest, realizing the enormity of the curse, warned Clara to rid herself of the doll permanently. The following night, Clara packed the doll away, intending to bury it deep in the woods. Yet, when she arrived at her destination, she discovered the doll waiting for her in her car. With dread settling in her stomach, she realized she was trapped in a cycle of horror with the cursed doll, and escape seemed impossible. In a small, isolated town, an eccentric puppeteer, known for his extraordinary skills, crafted intricate marionettes that captivated audiences. However, his obsession with his craft soon turned sinister. He created a doll that he believed could come to life, a perfect puppet that could dance and move as he commanded. However, when he showcased the doll to an audience, something went horribly wrong. As the marionette moved on its own, it appeared to be possessed, twisting and contorting in unnatural ways. The crowd gasped as the puppet leaped into the air, seemingly defying gravity. The puppeteer, thrilled by his creation, had unknowingly unleashed a malevolent spirit trapped within the doll. The doll's dance was mesmerizing, yet it soon became apparent that the spirit within was not benign. Those who witnessed the performance began experiencing nightmares, haunted by visions of the doll performing grotesque acts. The puppeteer, blinded by his desire for fame, refused to acknowledge the growing horror. As time passed, the marionette developed a mind of its own, moving independently of the puppeteer's strings. It began to target those who had wronged the puppeteer, causing tragic accidents that left the townsfolk in fear. The puppeteer's initial joy turned to dread as he realized that he had lost control of his creation. Ultimately, the puppeteer was found dead in his workshop, surrounded by his marionettes. The townsfolk whispered of a curse, believing that the marionette had taken his life as a final act of vengeance. After his death, the doll was locked away, but legends say that on stormy nights, one can still hear the sound of strings being pulled and the soft laughter of the puppet master echoing through the darkened streets. To this day, the townspeople warn children never to play with dolls or puppets, for fear that the spirit of the puppet master will awaken and wreak havoc once more.